Hey everybody, this is Sean from Low Code Approach. Thanks everybody for, all the amazing suggestions that we had all year and guests to talk to and just topics to cover. We had a blast with that. We can't wait to do more and we need your help with more topics at aka.ms/low code topic request. We also need your help with ratings and reviews on whatever platform you use to get your podcast. So please drop a rating, drop a like, and follow us on LinkedIn at the Low Code Approach LinkedIn group. Can't wait to see you there. Hey everybody, new episode of Low Code Approach here. I'm your host, Sean Feeney. Now is when I would normally pass the microphone over to Wendy Haddad, but she's currently filling out the entire lineup for Hollywood Squares with her and her family. Instead, we've got another person joining the podcast.
It is I, the angry General of Security, General Ben Chow, Jocelyn. Thanks for having me, Sean. I also have Brother Ken.
Sean, I feel like with that one right there, that one with your intro was very nice and very just smooth. Jocelyn makes me feel like I'm sneaking around. And all right, so normal intro for myself. Hi, I'm Ken Aguilar, Principal Program Manager here, and it is somewhat cold in Houston right now. It's a lovely 39 degrees, but the rest of Texas has been covered in snow at the time of this recording. Sean, what are we here and what are we talking about today?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because in Seattle, we were thinking that we would get a nice snowy winter, but that's not the case. So that's a misconception, which is kind of like the theme that I want to talk about, our misconceptions. And we're fresh off the heels of Ignite at the time of this recording, and everybody has had some time off bringing in the new year. And so let's set some things straight, Ken, on what you heard at Ignite or just in your passing of talking to customers. And let's make sure that we get the facts out. So, Ken, I pass the mic to you for first misconception.
Well, Sean, I've heard a lot at all the different conferences. A lot of different customers coming up to us and saying different things. Like, for example, hey, I don't know if you're doing enough about governance and security. Hey, I don't think that the Power Platform is right for citizen development and so on. But I could talk about a whole lot of them. But the most common thing I keep hearing is, hey, please, I need guidance. They've been asking us for years and saying that, oh, can you give us a white paper or can you give us explicit directions like I must do these things? And often it's in the realm of security saying they don't know what to do. So we have our General of Security over here.
I'm really sad, Ken.
I know.
It makes me really sad to hear that people feel like we're not giving enough guidance. I really hope I am. I say I because this misconception makes me feel like I personally am not doing my job. But
I am personally attacking you, John.
Thank you. I know you are. This is common. So with regards to what artifacts that we can provide, that we have provided, specifically they call out white papers, right? We have ample white papers. Brother Sean, I believe that you wrote one yourself, correct?
This is fact.
This is fish fact indeed. We also have white papers written by our friends over in PowerCat that might be able to curtail specifically to your enterprise's needs, for example. But aside from just white papers, because white papers are long, they are a huge time investment, we've also invested a lot in being able to provide video content in shorter forms, more digestible things. You're looking for a specific scenario, we might have a demo on that, We also have longer video content, more so up-leveled, right? How you can go ahead and convince your business decision makers or your leadership on the overall business value propositions, covering each angle of security, right? Making sure nobody can look into my data, make sure my data stays right there where it belongs, and all of the other directions that your data can flow.
You bring up a good point, right? We've got different types of media, be it a white paper, be it long form or short form video. I know we've done shorts, even on the Low Code Approach LinkedIn channel. You can jump in there and see all the topics and Jocelyn and Ken's smiling faces and my very angry face. No, that's Ken's angry face too. You'll see all of it on there. But I guess one of the questions I have is, since there's so much content, how does someone sort it out to meet their needs, right? So you've got somebody at the business decision maker level who needs just to be able to confidently say that Power Platform provides X, Y, and Z types of security features. And then you've got the admin who is implementing these features, right? How do you get to what you exactly need and kind of not have to deal with the noise if it doesn't matter to you too much?
Two-part question there. I actually think one thing that we've invested a lot in over the last couple of months, especially for the business decision maker, is the IT pro blogs. So I think that's a really great starting place where you can just sit for 5 minutes and read what's most up to date. And from there, obviously, there are tons of more detailed links. And that's where I would go secondarily if I was that admin that's looking for specific next steps.
That makes sense. So I've got a misconception that I heard, and this was leading up to Ignite. This was at Power Platform Community Conference. And I think this is one that is near and dear to Ken's heart.
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh no, dude, you will know. Why is managed environments so expensive? Why do I have to license everybody wall to wall with apps and automate in order to do that? And I know recently, because I worked with you on putting up a blog post on it, that this is debunked. Can you please tell us a little bit more about why this is not a licensing concern anymore?
Okay, in the past, even so, even before what I'm about to say, you did not have to license things wall to wall. I would love for you to license everything wall to wall, right? I encourage you to license everything wall to wall, but you did not have to do that. You really only needed to license active users, active usage. That's it. Not, oh, I've got 100,000 folks in my organization, but only 20,000 of them are using the platform. You license the 20,000 that are active. That's it. Now, in the past, also, there was, oh, well, if I buy apps, I also need to buy Automate. Okay, yes, admittedly, that was true. As of Ignite 2024, so as of November 2024, right, that is no longer true. You now only need buy either or for the enablement of managed environments. Now, I want to make perfectly clear on this. Outside of managed environments, the license entitlements and requirements do not change, meaning that if you're using premium features, premium connectors, and so on, you'll still need the premium license for whatever particular premium part of the product that you're using. So in other words, if I'm using a premium connector for Power Apps, I still need the Power Apps license. If I'm using a premium connector inside of Power Automate, I still need the Power Automate license. It's only whenever like I'm inside of managed environments, if Sean, you're using simply just Power Automate with premium connectors and then you're not using Power Apps, well, you don't need a Power Apps license now. It's okay.
Mhm.
It's fine. Right. So it's not both, it's either or. Love your question. Thank you.
No worries. No worries. Jocelyn, I think you have one too.
I do. It's around a similar topic. I hear you. I'm glad perhaps as a business, I don't have to go wall to wall with the licenses. But help convince me further on why I need managed environments to really grow that business to its full potential.
I feel like Mr. T right now. I pity the fool that don't. No, seriously, admittedly, we have a lot of great features that are within the product, but those features, legacy DLP, for example, still help you to secure and manage the platform. Customers have asked us time and time again to port things over from the COE, build certain features. Realistically speaking, I'm not going to say that, we want to charge for every single thing that there is. Jocelyn, you just built a brand new feature for controlling guest access, right? Which is not a managed environments feature. But in the same token, customers have said to us, hey, great, you have this feature and I love it and it's free, but I need to manage it at scale. So there's different aspects and parts of your question. So managing at scale, now that's groups. And that will continue to grow and to iterate inside of that. Customers have said, hey, we want the ability to block all connectors. If we give that to you now, that's in the form of a rule, and that's in something that's called connector management. So I understand, Jocelyn, I'm not maybe particularly answering the question on why, but these things have to be built and they have to be built somewhere. Managed security, managed governance, managed operations, right, is actually where we're building things now, right, inside of those three pillars. And, we will continue to do that for the foreseeable future. Right now, I guess that's my answer. Not exactly an answer, but it is an answer. Jocelyn, maybe a question for you. Why are all the recommendations and whatnot, I'm doing this intentionally, Sean, with my long pauses,
I like it.
inside of the security center? So for example, we talked about earlier, hey, I really want to know what I should be doing to secure my tenant. Why is all of that in the new security center instead of just being sent, I don't know, emails or so on and so forth?
I think what we were really striving for was that single pane of glass feel, where you're able to go into a single place and be able to see a high level overview of how your security posture is all together without having to hunt and peck. You know, you get, say, one email giving you advice on one thing. That's just an aspect, right? That's just one part of your security, perhaps one feature or one pillar of it. But where can we go to see a high level overview of all of that? And I think this is kind of related to what you were saying about groups and about rules, where with managed SOG, managed security, governance, and operations, what we're really striving for is to really make it easy, right? We're really looking for that simplicity and scalability where it's not just one feature at a time, but where you can go and actually grow and apply this across your organization at scale and intelligently.
So, follow up to that, I would be remiss if I didn't say that one of the misconceptions is that, oh, I hate AI and AI because it's not secure. Or I really don't want to have someone using AI and sharing what they've built across the entire organization. And I think that have been more on the forefront of providing excellent controls, right? I mean, I think, Sean, I might be off. I know it was over 40 additional security controls and updates that we added over the past 6 months
Yeah.
for Copilot Studio and Copilot alone. So, Jocelyn, I mean, have you heard about, misconceptions about this? And maybe what are you perhaps seeing or doing about securing AI within the platform?
We're doing so much. We are doing so much, and I think this also relates back to our first question about how are we educating about how much we're doing? Because it's really we're running, we are really going at such a rapid pace when it comes to developing our AI innovations as well as securing them. So, again, in each of the different angles and layers of security, we're working on investments, whether that has to do with limiting sharing, like you're saying, Ken, making sure there is no risk for exfiltration, making sure everything is authenticated the way you decide. We're also working on ensuring security measures, not just from the admin's point of view, but specifically from the maker's point of view in Copilot Studio, where that maker who's actually going ahead and building that Copilot or that agent can actually instill specific guardrails there as well. We're really investing a lot in shifting left earlier on in this experience to make sure that security is not just one part of the story, but it's integrated throughout all things, all parts of the experience, and all parts of the storyline from the business's point of view. Now, with regards to how do we make sure you guys can, really put your hands in that and give it a shot, we may or may not, by the time this comes out, Sean, have more specific content as well, just about agent specific security, separate and additional to that of the overall platform.
So I want to touch on two things. You brought up we have all these new security features that we're offering people to get to and admins to implement. And then you also mentioned the single pane of glass for security. So I want to touch on the misconception of managing or administering Power Platform is hard. There's stuff everywhere, right? And there's a lot of things you do, and it kind of goes to what Ken said earlier before, where we need more prescriptive guidance. Is and man, what do I do first? How do I actually implement this correctly? And where do I go? Because there's a gazillion different left nav tabs in here that I have to go through. How do we get away from that? Ken, I think you got something to say.
Yeah, I mean, before Jocelyn jumps in, for those of you who don't know, we do see each other, so I'm jumping in my seat right now. We are an organization of almost 300,000
Yeah.
employees and so on. And truthfully, there's three main administrators of Power Platform, and they manage the platform with the things that we are building. And they've now started talking openly about how they're doing it and so on. So, that misconception of the platform being hard to manage, I almost take that one a little personally, also being a former, customer and administrator, that admittedly, yes, it might have been more difficult in the past, but it's so much easier than it was, right? right now. Over to you, my good friend Jocelyn.
It's okay. I feel like this episode is just a series of us of finding ourselves, clutching our pearls, and then carrying on. Speaking of Ignite, before we were talking about all the stuff we heard at Ignite, I think one of the most exciting things that people wanted to talk about at the booth was advisor and recommendations, right? With that, it really gives admins that are perhaps newer to the space pointed prescriptive guidance on what now, right? And actually having that security score gives you a goal, right? It's not just a vague, I want my security to be better. Like, what's better? Like, is it like, oh, I have a 98%, but I need to go find those other 2%? Advisor will actually help you go and tackle that last 2%. Click right here. It seems like, for example, you don't have an IP firewall configured. Here it is. There's your last 2%. It's really hand-holding and it's really guiding. And I hope that it helps to alleviate the I don't know what to do next feeling that people have expressed.
That makes sense.
Jocelyn, like you mentioned the score. A misconception that I see, right? This is a repetitive pattern, is that once I set it, I can pretty much forget it. And it's not just in the realm of security and, managed governance, managed security, managed operations. It's also within building the apps and so on. Listen, folks, the platform is always evolving and always changing. It's almost like some of our newer automobiles that are connected to the cloud now and how they're pushing out updates and things to it, right? And you're getting these new features. Your score, if you will, that might be 98%, like how Jocelyn mentioned, might drop to 80 because there are brand new things that have, been introduced that you should more than likely start looking at and taking advantage of because you already own them. We are going to continue to iterate and encourage folks to use these things and give you gentle nudges like, hey, this new feature's here. You should take a look at this. Sean, believe you had something else to add.
Yeah, so I want to piggyback on what you mentioned before with, only a few people administering Microsoft's Power Platform corporate tenant. And so at Ignite, Leanne Zelsman, who's the governance lead for the Power Platform in Microsoft Digital, shared some stats. And so I'd like to share those stats to give people an idea, listeners, an idea of like what is the scope of their governance. And we're looking at 55,000 environments. And I'll go into a little breakdown about like the types of environments, but that includes.
There's more than that now, Sean.
There's more than, oh yeah, I'm sorry. This was like 2 weeks ago. So there's probably a gazillion more than that now.
I think they're almost pushing 70,000 right now.
Oh, geez. People, this was shared at Ignite. That's like mid-November. And look at where it's at now. I'm sure these numbers have changed too, but we're looking around 200,000 Power Apps, 400,000 flows, 25,000 agents, 7,000 pages from Power Pages. I mean, that is a fair amount of content. Now, looking at the donut chart that was provided, and we can have a link to the deck that was shared at Ignite that kind of goes over managed operations, managed security, and managed governance. People can get a better idea of what that actually is. On there and in the deck, you'll see a slide that goes over the breakdown of environments. Now, looking at this, the majority of this are developer environments. And I want to get a better understanding from you of why does default stink and is scary, and why should we be using developer environment?
So many comments, Sean. I don't think we have another hour to actually talk about that. Okay, so first off, I have definitely a well-known love-hate relationship with the default. And let it be said publicly right here and recorded that I am certainly on a mission to kill the default. I would absolutely love to.
So hard said to stop killing things. I know we've talked about this.
Remove the default, right? Retire the default. Sorry, Zora. The default is certainly important to the platform and is an integral part of it right now. And it will remain that way for quite some time in the future. That said, it is also a legacy part of the platform, and it does have some of its flaws and whatnot, right? I almost hate to sort of use this analogy, but imagine if you had a single SharePoint site and you decided to put everything inside of that and not take advantage of creating multiple SharePoint sites or even using OneDrive. What would your landscape look like? It would look very much like the default. Now, you asked about the developer environments. Customers have said, oh, well, we want a better way to manage the platform. However, we do not want it to affect our capacity, our performance, and all of these other things. The old adage of here's 3 options, pick 2 because you can't have all 3. You have a brand new, right, and efficient way of doing things by using environment routing with these developer environments, right, or what we call personal productivity environments. And they do not, again, do not, right, go against your performance or your capacity or anything along those lines. They don't, right? So you can have 1,000, 10,000, and so on. However, it is a premium feature. So yes, you do need licensing for each individual person that is using a managed personal environment. You absolutely need to do that. One thing that is also a misconception inside of that, Sean, is that I can't control who is being routed and how many licenses I need for that. You can absolutely scope the routing down to a security group or multiple security groups now, right? And choose, I only want 1,000, I want 10,000, or so on. That's my answer.
I really like retiring the default environment better. It's giving the vibes of like, you've done a really great job, but it's time for you to, live off those RSUs and go eat some brunch and maybe go on some long walks with your dog. Take some side gigs, perhaps, but your main work here is done. I like that, Ken.
I like that. I think I'm going to have to make sure that I consciously start saying retire instead of kill and so on. All right. Again,
So Harl will be happier with this.
sorry, Bob.
I guess the question that I would bring up, and kind of leading to some future episodes that we're going to record, though, is agents are everywhere. And then I want to say that again with agents are everywhere. You're an admin. What are you going to do? Right. And that is a huge thing. You've got leadership who wants to implement agents and generative AI in your business. And now you've already got a ton on your plate and you have to bring this into. So the misconception I have is, why don't I just turn this off? Why should I keep this on and work with these things? And maybe that's a terrible question to ask on the close of this, but because we can go for a while on it. But I would love to get why that's a misconception.
One, I don't think that it is it's definitely not a misconception, Sean. I think you're spot on. I mean, there is the air of fear.
Hmm.
I mean, Terminator did teach us that, over and over again, right? In multiple different iterations of the movie. That said, it is not the same as that, right? It's not Skynet or anything along those lines. There's always the fear of, oh, how much will this cost me? We've talked about a little bit about security and so on. Oh, how do I actually manage this? Oh, I need visibility. All of those things are being provided, folks, right? And they are continuing to be enhanced. I mean, I think we used to call it AI Hub. There's now a Copilot Hub within the platform to get additional visibility. There's new security controls. There's Purview integration, right, for labeling and, classifying data sensitivity and things within AI. I'm trying to go slower, Sean, but there's a lot.
Yeah.
Additionally, even from the cost perspective, there's many new options now in terms of buying licensing and using billing meters and number of different ways you can optimize the deployment of the platform, including, not having to deploy it to everyone, deploying it to maybe specific groups and so on. In addition to that, we can't talk about it yet, but more features coming in terms of like governance and security to help really and truly optimize the distribution of the assets so they are not shared amongst all folks within the organization. Jocelyn, do you have anything to add?
I have a different angle because perhaps as a wee child, I was not born when Terminator came out, so I wasn't raised to be scared of it. But I have a different fear, right? I have a fear of missing out, right? I have considerable AI FOMO. AI is, the it thing. It is the it thing of the era. And I view Power Platform as a means, right? It's perhaps the best means, in our opinion. It is the best method to help your organization really take advantage of the power of AI. But I view AI as this wave of innovation that is going to take off, that is taking off, that has taken off already, that if you don't join, you will be left behind. Truly, I really do feel like this is probably a little bit radical for the podcast, but I view it no different than factory lines, centuries ago, where that was like, oh, it's going to steal jobs as well. But it's the innovation that the time needs. And Power Platform is the best method of that. So my fear is less so like, oh, robots are going to take over. But my fear as an enterprise, if I was an enterprise, would be how can I keep up if I don't choose to leverage AI?
I mean, the answer for me is really simple. Use AI. And like if you want to keep up
Don't keep up otherwise.
and you want to remain competitive, I mean, that could be a whole other show for us, honestly. And John, that's probably a great topic that we can start pulling some people in on, is how to remain competitive in the world of AI. I mean, Jocelyn, you're spot on. Like, I understand folks have some fear of it, but I mean, it's nothing more than a tool, and use it. So, Sean, you have maybe more to add, sir?
No, I think one, I'm blown away that Jocelyn makes reference to like Industrial Revolution, but then completely passes over Terminator.
I went
So
to
that's
my
cool.
history class. I wouldn't say I was watching movies in the 80s. There's a difference.
So if I said, I'll be back.
Okay.
Just say when. But no, listen, we've got,
Sure.
obviously, there's tons more misconceptions with Power Platform. Luckily, the great work that's being done by Ken, Jocelyn, and their teams is just knocking down those bowling pins and making sure that everybody has easier
Bit
to.
of credit. Just a little.
Oh, that's okay. I just talk, I'm your mouthpiece for it. That's all it is. Although I don't think you do either.
You're like my reverse Don King, Sean, is what you are.
No, I'm reverse Don King. I
I
like that. I like that a lot. Once again, thank you guys. I know you guys will be back. We'll talk a little bit more, but you'll hear more about AI agents in 2025. I'm very, very excited. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.